Another way to use double stops is through what's called playing inverted thirds. Inverted thirds. So in order for me to show you this, I wanted to leave this diagram up. You remember this is from the last video on double stops, the chord fragments. However, it's going to look a little bit different from this. And so I'm going to kind of delete this and then start all over, because some of the positions and the patterns are the same, but some are not. So when you're using inverted thirds, you will no longer have these positions. They'll all be in one kind of continuous position rather than three different segments. Okay, so I'm going to delete all these. Now, once again, some of these will look the same, and I wanted to leave this here so you can, after this video, come back to the very beginning to see the similarities. All right, so I'm going to delete. And here we go. So once again, we're in the key of G for these examples. All these examples are in the key of G, knowing that you can capo and shift everything up along with the capo, and you can play it in basically any key. So key of G, or G form, you remember? Okay. And the way you create these inverted thirds are by creating major scales. Now, let me show you this. You remember a major scale? We talked about this a long time ago, but it's created by the formula that's root, whole note, half note, whole note, whole note, whole note, and half note. This is the formula. So what we're going to do is, since we are in the key of G, I'm going to go, and once again, this is going to be on the D and B strings only. You can do these on other strings, but for this example, D and B string only. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to go and find a G, since we're in the key of G, so the number 1 note on this B string. And I know that this note right here is a G. That's the 1. So that's the root. And from there, I'm going to apply this formula. Okay, so from root, whole note is 2 steps, 2 frets. So that would be the next note. That would be 2. And then from there, another whole step, 1, 2, which is here. Now, to put this all in one position, I'm not, instead of going back up this way, I'm going to take this an octave lower. See, these double frets are the same as open strings. So if you think about it, this note is an octave higher as this note, which is the same note. So that's a 3. So we got root, whole, and then it's half from there. So half is at 1 fret. And then it's whole, half. So whole, whole. And sure enough, if you do this right, when you do your last half step, you end up back on your 1, your root. Okay, so let me just write this here, 1, so we know where the starting point is. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other note that we're using as the double stop, which is on this D string, and then I'm going to find the 1 note, which is the key of G. So we're looking for a G note on this string. And I know a G is right here. Okay. So that's the one. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So it's root, whole, whole, half, whole. And once again, this whole note, I'm going to continue on down here because that's the same, that's an octave higher. So these two notes are exactly the same as these two notes here. So let's see, here's root, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Half brings us back to 1. So now look at these double stop patterns I have created. So you'll notice, and I'll draw these lines so that you can see. So they basically boil down to 2 different patterns. They're either going to be in the same fret like this, or they're going to be like this, which is here and 1 fret over like this. So these are the only 2 differences. You can see this, little this, and that's all there is. And the reason why is when these are inverted thirds, there's only major and minor thirds. There's only 2 types of thirds. So that's why you get these 2 patterns. And what happens is this here is the major third pattern, and this is your minor third pattern. So if you know your music theory, and if you've been following this series, you should know this, that chords 1, 4, 5 use major thirds. Chords 2, 3, 6, and 7. That's a diminished, but it uses minor thirds. So now watch. I'm going to erase this one because this is inverted. Inverted means it's upside down. And so the 1 is actually the high note. 1 is the higher note. And the thirds are lower notes. You remember in the second video or third video, I think it was, we looked at regular thirds and we started them here. And they were just 2 strings that were right next to each other. Well, and then I'll draw this. So this was the major third, these 2. And this was the root. And this was the third. Well, now what's going to happen is since these are inverted, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be... the roots are going to be on these higher notes, and the thirds are going to be lower, making it inverted third. Okay, so here we go. This pattern here, this pattern is now the 1. This pattern is the 2. This pattern is the 3, and that's the same as down here. That's the 3. This pattern is the 4. This pattern is the 5. This pattern 6. This pattern is 7. So the one way you can use this is as chords change, you just follow along with these patterns and you'd play them exactly the way you play thirds or fifths or tenths or octaves. You know, if the chord is progression is 1, 4, 6, 5, you would play this 1, switch down here to the 4, play this for the 6, and play this for the 5. So you can move it around. So now you got chords that kind of move up and down the neck a lot more rather than staying in one close voiced area like the chord fragments that we just looked at. But this will have a different sound, and it's just another option for you as a guitar player. Now, a couple of cool things about this. Once again, you can use this open G string, and that's why we're doing everything in G. This open G string, you can add that anytime you want to kind of create more tension and a little more modern sound with these changes. And also, another great thing you can do with these is there was a video, a couple videos back, and it was called +2. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. +2. And that same +2 concept will work with these inverted thirds. So now instead of playing 1, you can play the 1, or 1 + 2 is 3. Play 3 over the 1 chord. And over the 4, you can play the 4, and you can play +2, 4 is 6. So you can play either of those. Or you can play this over the 6, you can play this 6 + 2, 7, 8. But remember, 8 is the same as 1, so you can go from 6 to 1. And by the way, remember, you can just play 6 to the 1, or you can play the chord in between those to get to the +2 chord. So you can play 6, 1, or 6, 7, 1. And then 5 chord, you got 5. You can play 5 or +2, which is the 7, or you can play 5, use the 6 to get up to the 7. And these double stops, that's one of the great things about them, is they're almost like you can slide around with them. You know, you can slide into the next chord, and you can't really do that when you're just playing bar chords or whatever. But these will give you more like a kind of a, how, you know, when you would use a, what do you call that? A slide. They'll let you slide in and out of chords, and you can kind of get that same thing by using double stops. Okay, so there you go. Inverted thirds.